Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, the home of slightly above average FPL video content. If you like what you see today, please do consider sticking around and maybe even ding my little bell for notifications and you can become a mate. It's time for the Game Week 30 preview and we will be covering today some transfer targets for this week and beyond, some weekly topics including the impact of coronavirus on FPL, and a watch list for Game Week 31, a potential goalkeeper strategy, and finally we'll be looking at the best captaincy options for Game Week 30. So, let's get straight into the watch list. Now, first up, it's Harvey Barnes. Now, I warn you, this watch list is ignoring Game Week 31, so if you're free hitting that week, then you can look at these players. If not, you might want to consider holding off until after Game Week 31. Either way, how can I not talk about Harvey Barnes? 19 points made him the star of the double game week that never was, and I'm so glad I chose him in my team over Perez. But even without hindsight, I do think Barnes is the better shout, and I think you've got to consider him moving forward. 0.7 expected goals and 0.12 expected assists was obviously massively overperformed in the Villa game, but when you consider Barnes' positioning, he's constantly in the box, and when you're in that area, the half chances will fall to you, and that's exactly what we're looking for in an FPL asset. 3 blanks in a row consecutively concerned some people, but these were against some tough defences, and before that, Barnes was tearing it up. He's now against some much softer defences such as Watford, Everton and even Arsenal, and then he's got that double game week guaranteed at some point, which will include Brighton. I'm expecting him with his great form and confidence. He's worth keeping if you already have him, and maybe even switching to him if you have a cheap midfield void in your team, maybe if you want to tag out Adama Traore or someone. Next up, I've got Giroud, and by Giroud, I perhaps mean just any Chelsea player. Leicester have proven just how lucrative a game against Villa can be for an attacker, and if you look at Chelsea's fixtures, it's pretty much just a sea of green all the way until they play Liverpool in Game Week 37. So Chelsea right now pretty much have the best run of fixtures of any team starting this game week, excluding that blank. There is an argument to say get a couple of Chelsea players in now to take advantage of that Villa game. Of course, this depends on the rest of your team, your plans, your priorities. Other players you could include could be Marcus Alonso, Willian, Pedro and Mason Mount, but I think your best bet is Olivier Giroud. He's the most nailed on of all of those players mentioned. He's had 3 returns in a row, 7 attempts in the box, 2 big chances, one of which he scored, 1.93 expected goals in the last 4. All these stats are in the last 4, by the way, and that's an expected goal every other game. This should improve with more favourable fixtures incoming, and one thing I don't like about Giroud, aside from all that, is his positioning, and that's the only thing that would put me off, because often he finds himself quite deep and behind the attack and not quite involved. But saying that, at 6.5 million, that's a really, really good price for an attacker that's nailed on for a top 4 side, and he's a pretty good replacement for someone like Danny Ings. Finally, I've gone for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I think it's time to jump on the Man United defence. Even now against a weaker Spurs attack, or you can wait until after the blank where they face Brighton. But honestly, right now until the end of the season, United don't face a single strong attacking side. Add to that the fact that they've been one of the strongest defensive sides of late, I can easily see a stretch of plenty of clean sheets between now and the end of the season. Conservatively, I reckon United can average maybe a clean sheet every other game. The FPL website suggests that Harry Maguire is actually the better option to go for over Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and this is because FPL form is distorted by Maguire's goal in Game Week 26, his only goal of the season. And now, whilst I don't expect Wan-Bissaka to offer much attacking threat, he's not an attacking fullback at all, but he might grant you the rare occasional assist, and I think that's more likely than a Maguire goal. But regardless of that, what you can see is that when United get clean sheets, Wan-Bissaka is very likely to get some of the bonus points. So whilst most clean sheet defenders usually get the standard 6, Wan-Bissaka will see you get lots of 7s and 8s. So since your rivals will probably go for Maguire, you can easily get the edge on them here. Okay, so we can't really make a video at this moment without mentioning the coronavirus and how it may impact us. Already we've seen the double game week fixture of City versus Arsenal cancelled, which has absolutely demolished a load of us. I personally had Aubameyang triple captain and bought in Pepe for Mane on a hit this week, so I'm not too happy about that at all. So basically what's happened is the Olympiacos chairman has been tested positive for coronavirus, and 2 weeks ago in the Europa League game, some Arsenal players met with the Olympiacos chairman after the game, shook his hand, exchanged pleasantries, and therefore these players and these members of staff might have been affected. So to avoid the spread, Wednesday's game has been cancelled. The grace period is 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks of contact, the Arsenal players will be cleared to play again. So the end of the 2 weeks is Friday, so Arsenal should play as usual on at the weekend against Brighton. So don't expect them to have another game cancelled at all. As for thinking any more deeply about this coronavirus, I'd say just keep an eye on the fixtures. There might be a few surprise cancellations, so just stand the ball. But I don't think we need to worry about doing any extreme strategies like using all of your chips now, just in case the season's cancelled. So don't worry about that too much. For those of us who did suffer in FPL because of the City Arsenal game cancellation, try not to worry about it. I think we're all in the same boat here. It's just one of those moments that's all about luck, and we just got to move on. So as someone who is very much on the side of free hitting in Game Week 31, I feel like I may have neglected those of you who aren't free hitting in Game Week 31. So now I'm going to quickly whiz through a couple of players with who are worth considering for Game Week 31 that you can start bringing in now. Or if you are doing a free hit, you can keep these players in mind ready for when you do a free hit. Though I do plan to make a free hit draft video next week, so do please stay tuned for that one. So let's just go through the positions and players to consider. So goalkeepers, it's got to be Pope against Watford, I think. The only other keeper worth considering is probably Patricio against Bournemouth, but he's arguably a waste of one of your 3 Wolves slots. In defence, you want to use up 1 or 2 of those Wolves slots, so go for Doherty if you can afford him. Then after that, Seiss and Bolly. For Burnley, you can consider Taylor and Tarkowski, and then hopefully you've already got a Liverpool defender to complete your defence there. If you've got Aurier already, then great, but I probably wouldn't bring him in. In midfield, let's assume you already have Salah, Mane, or both. On top of that, you want to be targeting the Spurs versus West Ham game. So for Spurs players, you've got Ali and Lucas fit, the rest are write-offs or CDMs. Then for West Ham, you've got Antonio, who's playing up front, getting loads of chances, and could actually be a fairly big hitter that week. We also have Jared Bowen for West Ham, who looks very good indeed as well. You could go for Sarr from Watford, but if you've got Burnley defence, then that seems a little bit contradictory. It feels a little bit negative to me. Up front, we do have limited options. You've got Firmino, if you already have him. Hopefully you have one of Jimenez or Jota. If you don't, get one of them, or maybe even get both of them. You could double up potentially as well. And then on your final space, you could have a choice of Chris Wood or Troy Deeney. But really, there's nothing really that stands out, especially no one that you'd want to own long term, I guess, other than the Wolves guys. So those are a few suggestions of players you can start bringing in now, and I really hope that helps. So I want to talk quickly about goalkeepers. I know keepers don't get a lot of love in FPL, but I have come up with a bit of a strategy that I plan to use that may or may not apply to you. Maybe it'll give you some ideas as well. So at the moment I have one starting goalkeeper in McCarthy and then Button to save money. As we know, if we want to use bench boost, you need to have 2 starting goalkeepers. So here's my thinking. From Game Week 33, Southampton play City, Everton and United. So ideally, I need to bring in another keeper for those games. The 2 I have my eye on are Leno of Arsenal and Dubravka of Newcastle. Not only do they rotate quite nicely with Southampton, but they also have quite nice defensive fixtures right until the end of the season. And both of them are guaranteed to have 2 double game weeks between now and the end of the season. Both of them have to play City at one point for one of their double game weeks, but as for the other double game week, for Newcastle, that game week will include Villa, and for Arsenal, that game week will include Southampton as a bonus. So these are pretty good fixtures to double up on too. This makes them perfect for rotating keepers and even more lucrative to own when those double game weeks do come around. Right now, I just feel like Leno and Dubravka are the best keepers to bring in with the bench boost in mind. It doesn't have to be right now, but I'm going to make sure right now that I'm thinking about it, since both of them are 5 million, so I do need to make sure that I have the 1.1 million spare in my bank to upgrade to Button. Which of the 2 I choose will depend on where these double game weeks fall, and where I'm most likely to use my bench boost. But right now I'm thinking bench boost in double game week 37, but that could change of course. And also whether either of these players get more double game weeks, or maybe other players will get some additional double game weeks. You never know, it could happen. It's a changing game constantly. But anyway, it's time for the most important decision of your week, and that is captaincy. If he plays, I think our best choice for captaincy could be KDB. I say if he plays because City do have a crucial Champions League game against Real Madrid on Tuesday. He's also been nursing a shoulder injury, but I expect him to be fit for the weekend. City's loss on Sunday once again has proven that they can't perform in the Premier League without De Bruyne, so Pep might be keen to include him against Burnley on Saturday. The only concern with KDB coming up is him coming on for maybe a few minutes just at the end of the match to get some match fitness. Otherwise, it's pretty easy. Slap the captaincy on KDB and make sure you've got a strong vice-captain. But assuming he does play and start, KDB averages 7.08 points per game when he has started the match this season. He's got plenty of 10+ point hauls. He's the second top scoring top scoring player in the league with games in hand. Blah, 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 blah. Burnley have improved defensively, but they're still overperforming their expected goals conceded, so you expect that to catch up with them a little bit. And this is what with them playing some teams with some weaker attacks as well, such as Newcastle, Bournemouth, and the injury-stricken Spurs. I do completely understand why people are saying maybe Burnley shouldn't be a team that you target anymore for captaincy, but against City, I just think they could have some problems, and I expect KDB, as usual, to be the talisman. If you don't fancy KDB, maybe go for Mane. As always, Mane and Salah are pretty interchangeable if you only have one, but I do prefer Mane in away games and Salah in home games, and Liverpool face Everton away. Now, a derby game is far less predictable at the time than your regular games, but Everton's defensive performances again, have been not great recently. Against Chelsea, it was just laughable, losing 4-0, and that really showed their defensive frailties. And as did conceding 3 goals to Arsenal 2 weeks prior. So could it be that defensively Everton have become a little bit of whipping boys? Or are they just at the mercy of this horrible run of fixtures they're facing? Either way, they've proven they're more than capable of conceding a few goals, and their defensive line is just not looking strong right now at all. I'd be more than happy to captain a Liverpool attacker against Everton, perhaps not a defender, so I'd go for Mane, Salah, and then Firmino in that order. If you really fancy a punt, you can go for Firmino, but maybe perhaps not. Finally, we could go for Bruno Fernandes. What a player, what a consistency. I think I'm finally ready to put the trust in him. I've seen enough. We could make him captain. He's just won Premier League Player of the Month. He's the in-form player of the league. He's the playmaker and centrepiece in a resurgent United side. He's taking 3.5 shots per game and creating more than a couple of chances per game as well. Look, we know he's class, we know he's exciting, we know he's doing it every week. But what we want to talk about here is why he's going to be so great against Spurs. So, Spurs top the table for most expected goals conceded over the last 4 with 9.34. That's considerably worse than Villa, West Ham and Norwich, who we'd usually expect to be the whipping boys. In actuality, they've conceded 8 in 4, which is still only the second worst in the league, so that's still a very good team to target if you look at it like that. And what's surprising is Spurs have conceded the most shots, with 70 shots conceded in 4 game weeks, which is just mad. A specific stat that is interesting is that they concede by far the most of their chances along their right flank. And since Bruno often drifts to the left to either cut in and shoot or pass, this is a great opportunity for him to take advantage of this weak spot. I think Bruno could be a serious game week defining captain option, as he'll be a huge differential, and not a lot of people are ready to trust him with the armband yet. So with no true standout options this week, it could be worth actually taking a little risk on Bruno. So that's all I have to say in the run up to Game Week 30. If you did enjoy this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Good luck to everyone this game week. Let's put that last game week behind us and smash this one. Do let me know what your transfer and captaincy plans are for this week, and I hope to see you on the next one. See you later, mate.